guys, Spartan117GW, and we are here at Fort MacArthur, really close to my house actually in Southern California. I have the G&G M1 Garand. Now, I'm going to go over my loadout, but first let me go over the rifle. So the G&G M1 Garand is an AEG, and I've experienced with a bunch of different airsoft platforms for World War II Milsim essentially. There's going to be a big game hopefully coming up in December from Milsim West. But the G&G M1 Garand is a really nice balance because I've been finding a lot of gas systems give you a lot of different performance. They all have their quirks and stuff like that, but the G&G is pretty easy to pick up and go. It's really important to have that kind of reliability and ease of use, especially if you're going to be using it an extended period of time in something like a Milsim West game that goes for 2.5 days. What's interesting though is that it doesn't have an M block like a real M1, although this is where your hop-up adjustment is. So it actually functions a lot like an M14 in that regard, but this is your magazine. So it's an 18 round magazine. It actually loads on the bottom. Just have to make sure it seats just right. But once it's in there, you're good to go. Although the only bad part is that every time you drop the mag, you usually lose like 2-3 BBs. So you gotta be picky with your shots, but if you're doing something like World War II Milsim, then there aren't gonna be guys running around for the most part with huge capacity magazines. You're gonna have a lot of blank fire, so I think this will still fit the role. I think the metal is probably the only part where it might look a little bit less authentic, but I mean, given this is an airsoft gun, I think G&G's done a really nice job. I mean, the wood is fantastic. It doesn't come with the sling, but you do have the sling points here. This is actually at the front eco-branded sling that I still have to dye and weather a little bit, and that'll probably make it the whole package look a lot better. One thing to note, it uses Tamiya, and the battery compartment is here where the cleaning kit normally would be. Has Tamiya. If I can, maybe I'll switch it to Dean's. I would still recommend using like something like level 1 LiPo, but nothing like too big. Like you'd think there'd be a bigger cavity in here for batteries, but it's not too huge. So a stick or two, maybe if you can squeeze it in there, is about what you're going to get out of this thing. So that covers the rifle. Alright, so going over my Paratrooper loadout, I still have some tweaking to do, but just going over head to toe. So we have the helmet here. This is an M1C style helmet. You can get a couple different variations. This one in particular will probably be easier to get and easier to set up for airsoft. It has an at the front liner, so I still gotta like dye this and make it a little bit more authentic. But as you can see, it has the corking and stuff and it has the net. This is kind of the style that I've chosen to go after. But there's a couple different helmets out there, some of varying rarity and whatnot, like M2s and this, that, and the other. But kind of continuing, I have my actual load bearing setup right here. It all kind of connects to the belt right here, the pistol belt, I guess what you would call it. I have a variety of riggers pouches and carbine pouches because at the time I was kind of debating which one is more practical for all my purposes, because I do reenacting, but I also do airsoft, so I gotta trying to find that sweet spot about what gear setup will work for both. Now this is kind of set up when I was still debating of whether I was going to use the carbine instead, because you have the carbine pouches, but you can also use rigger pouches, which are really easy to open, and it gives me some flexibility. So I'm probably going to end up switching this more to all riggers pouches, and I know people address this in some of my other videos that I've done in the past. The reason I didn't go with the actual regular rifle belt or rifle setup or cartridge belt is because the G&G magazines do not fit in your standard cartridge belt. So that's why I went with the riggers pouches, and honestly for airsoft and actually running around using this stuff, this is probably the easier way to go if you're going to be using this kind of setup. So I mean, if you are going to use like something like the King Arms M1 carbine, this is a really good, these are really good mag pouches to have, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to transition all the way over to just sticking with the rigger pouches and the M1 Garand, and I could probably run like 12 magazines on my body with 18 rounds each, so it's like a little more than 200 rounds. I also have this little aid packet right here. Also have the uniforms, the M42 jump uniform or parachutist uniform. People call all kinds of different things, but basically it's the M42 uniform. I actually lost my top and I got a new one, but my good friend Roz, who helped me out with a lot of the reference, the helmet, and a whole bunch of stuff, He also did the sewing for my uniform, so I got the 48 star flag on here, which is really cool. I like how it has like the cross stitching on the patches, which is really, really nice. I might pick up the gloves in the future, but we'll see what happens. Let's see, next up, the actual load bearing setup. As you can see, I have the musette bag, and I've got the canteen in the back. I've got the little 8 pouch right there. Nothing too crazy. I need to get a couple more things like e-tool, find a place to put like a bayonet or something on there, but it's getting there. But it's still work in progress, but at least right now, it's effective enough to run around and play airsoft. And for right now, it actually kind of gets me by, at least in the reenacting world. Still got to get more stuff, but that's kind of the current build. The only other thing that I have is the Cochrane jump boots. The Cochrane jump boots, which is great, they still make them. Cochrane still makes the jump boots. So they're not too hard to get, and they're very, very nice quality. And I mean, I've worn Cochranes before. They were just black when I was in the Army, so not really much of a huge transitional process. But you can get pretty much almost everything you need at the front and other various websites, but it's actually pretty economical and pretty easy to put this together and have a basic kit just to get into it, sink your teeth into, whether it's reenacting or World War II milsim. But that should cover my kit. It's really, really nice. I love how it looks. Can't wait to use it at Milsim West.